reading some of your annual comprehensive financial report here, and it looks like ridership is down and expenses is up, and it's been going up for the last 10 years. Are you federally restricted from charging certain people more money and other people less money? And what I'm saying, like if somebody who could afford more to ride the bus, say a businessman who's saving on parking, driving down to Providence, doesn't have to pay to park, would you be able to, is there a federal law that says, no, you have to charge everybody the same amount? If somebody had an EBT card, could you say, look, you get to ride for free because you have a certain pass? Do you know if there are guidelines to that? Because that seems like a way of getting revenue up.
Yeah. So to answer your question, to start, there is federal rules around certain populations that should have reduced fare passes. And then our state has a free fare program. And then from there, everyone else basically pays the same thing. So that is something we'll be exploring as part of a study is, are some of these services we're talking about, you know, for that type of speed and direct connections, do they cost more? Is there a higher fare related to those that helps us then offset more expensive services, potentially with less ridership? So there's nothing preventing us from moving away from a one state, one rate type scenario, but we'd have to be, I think, methodical about it. Our base fare is already on the higher side of similar sized agencies.
One other thing, a couple of things that stood out to me in this report, and I don't know if you're a finance director, I don't know if you can answer this now, or if you want to defer to it and get back to me or whatever. And one of the things was the paratransit operations. It costs $15 million, and it brings in operating revenues of $450,000. Am I reading that right?
450. So our financial report breaks out those revenues. So $450,000 is actual riders paying for their service. We have a lot of contracted trips to BHGDH and a few other partners. That's a contracted rate, and that flows separately. But that service in general is federally required. Within 3/4 of a mile, you have to provide ADA transportation. It is expensive, but it is a lifeline for folks. And right now we're running it statewide I think it's going fairly smooth actually. And I think this is the type of thing we have to be looking at is, you know, we could continue running a statewide paratransit service. The cost per trip is going to be higher than other models, but it's going to provide a really valuable service to folks. And you know, those are the types of trade-offs I think we'll be looking at is, you know, what do we as an agency and as a state want to be doing? And I think that's a really good point that you raise. Yeah,
it's quite a gap. I mean, if that could be narrowed somewhat, that's a lot of money to be left on the table, essentially. But that was just one thing that stood out to me. It was myself and a colleague in my caucus that went through this, and we looked at a couple of other issues.